It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin a Thursday. Gary, what's happening?
Well, there is no joy in joy.
You know what's in the air, Whoopi?
What's
Trumpism. We lost the election. Wait a minute. We lost the election. We're miserable. Half of this country is miserable. And let's just tell the truth. We hate that he won. We hate it. And everybody's uptight and crazy right now.
Well, you know, she points out that they're sore winners, but last time around they were, or sore losers. Last time around they were sore winners. We're miserable. Well, you've always been miserable.
Yeah, you're miserable 24/7.
You were miserable when Biden became president.
The funny thing is, I love when the memes out there. It goes really hard to believe that the hosts of The View, they're so angry, and their names are Joy and Sunny, and it's like
and Whoopi. It's the worst children's party ever.
I know.
Seriously, who invited these clowns? I didn't pay for these clowns. I didn't pay for any of these clowns.
Very quickly, I just, because we were having a conversation.
Yeah.
In fact, we had no pre-show meeting, and about 10 seconds before we went on the air, Eric went, I'm like,
this is why Comcast is bailing on CNBC and MSNBC. Here's this from CNBC on their X page. Is your hotel sustainable? Look, I'd like to walk through and see zero stains. Let's start there. I want to see a clean room. Nobody cares about sustainable. Listen, I'm not staying here if it's not sustainable. I'm going to get back on that huge jumbo jet that burns tons of fuel only to get me to an island so I can soak my feet on the beach. But the hotel better be sustainable, mister. Are you kidding me? Man, seriously. Comcast, it couldn't happen soon enough, I'm sure. You know, they made the point, someone, one of the observations in that story about the spinoff of Comcast spinning off MSNBC, CNBC, the Golf Channel, a couple of others. They're keeping other properties. And it's like, okay, yeah, the viewership has changed. People are cutting the cord. But right now, you got people that are migrating in massive ways away from this whole woke agenda, this entire ridiculous approach. And CNBC's a financial channel, but they can't get away from the agenda. I wouldn't want any part of that as an investor, period. None. They say, well, they're still making profits. Right, for now. Which tells me, yeah, let's do the spinoff now so we can sell them, have something to show the buyers while they still have some profit, because that won't remain. I'm confident people are done with this because, look, there was a couple of things that I saw, a couple of digital ads I saw recently for Disney Plus, and I thought, you know, parents jumped onto Disney Plus because of all the properties under the Disney house. You know, we can, Star Wars, there's Marvel, there's all the superheroes, the Muppets, and all the Disney stuff. And we can get all this huge thing, you know, one-stop shop for entertainment in the home until the message starts kicking into your living room. Well, I'm not paying for that. Not paying for it. You know, and it hits me over and over again. I think to myself, because we've seen a definitive shift in this election. Digital media won the war, won the battle, I'll say. Maybe not the war. That was for people seeking out information. You know, when they're not talking about Anderson Cooper and everyone's talking about Theo Vaughn.
Well, not only
that tells you something.
Did you see? I got to find it from CNN. I didn't know we were going to go here, but they were talking about how upset they were that the legacy media is losing influence to people like, well, the one X post, which is called, and please excuse the title of it, that the mainstream media is losing to cat turd.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And it's like,
well, ultimately you're losing to the truth is what you're losing to. People are, it really is, people will. I agree with your dad to the extent that people want to be BS. Some people want to be BS. They don't really mind the BS. They don't mind the BS on the things that don't affect their lives. But don't tell them their eyes don't see what they see. Don't tell them who they are as an individual. You're a racist because, and you can't do anything about it, and it's in your DNA. Don't tell people that, because they will run. They will run to the other side and show you different. And it's just, this, starting with Joy here, they think they controlled the world. They controlled the narrative. And for a while, they did have control of the narrative. For a while, until reality kicked through and walked in, and you can't deny it. And then they point to reality and say that's not reality.
Well, I also think, as you and I had talked about this in the summer of 2020, when by the way, CNN was trying to make that comparison. We'll get that audio too. Trying to sit there and say, well, we're not going crazy over the Trump dance in the NFL like you went crazy over Colin Kaepernick. Scott Jennings like, well, they're two totally different things.
Yeah, right.
One was there wasn't politics; it was a social justice movement. Shut up! Yeah. It was politics.
It was purely political.
It's all politics. But you and I, because that was really based on. That happened before 2020, the Colin Kaepernick stuff, actually. But it came to a head after after Minneapolis,
right?
And so, we had said from the very beginning, they're promoting a lie that police departments are systemically racist to hunt down and kill blacks, because that was their message,
right?
And that the public, wholly, totally disapproves of what police are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And the polling came out and said, well, no, in the abstract they do. It's sort of like Congress. Congress sucks. My congressperson is wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm giving them a 98%.
Right.
Congress as a whole stinks. And that's what they found out, that it didn't matter where you were. There was great, great positive views of the police everywhere, of the general job that police were doing for your particular neighborhood. And so they were lying about an abstract. Let's say cops like, by the way, I just love the fact you saw LeBron James now leaving X. Can't handle it, huh?
Right.
Can't handle a little bit of people that can't handle the community notes. By the way, that's what it is. The left can't handle community notes.
They can't handle the truth.
It can't handle the truth.
And this is the truth rising to the surface, as it's always going to do. The truth doesn't change. Whether people pay attention to it is on them.
And the reason I bring up LeBron James just in this conversation with that is because he was the one, before he knew the facts, in the which one was it? Oshkosh? Where was it?
Yeah, I think it was.
Where the police officers, when the guy pulled the knife, and they were completely and totally exonerated.
Right.
And he helped inflame the riots that happened after that.
Right.
By stating it was obviously, and he didn't know what the truth was.
Right.
Well, he can't do that anymore. He gets called on it.
Right. Exactly.
He gets called on it, and now I'm going to go away. Oh, and I saw Ellen DeGeneres. Wow, we could just keep going. This is so much fun. You saw that she's now leaving the United States and going to move to England, and the Wrap.com says one of the reasons is because the United States sucks because Trump is president.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. Like Powers Booth in Tombstone. Well, bye. I don't I don't care. You know, it is this coward's mentality. If you won't get into our parade, talk the way we talk, do the things we want you to do, and also submit when we say, this is who you are, this is how you think, we're going to define you, you won't let us do any of that, we're leaving. Bye. Get out.
Yeah.
Don't come back. Don't come back and take advantage of the U.S. You know, I saw where she did her last stand-up special. You know, that's another thing of virtue signaling. It's my last one. Because this wasn't, hey, I'm retiring and it's time. You know, all the guys in the Blue Collar Tour, they've pretty much done that except for Ron White. Keeps working and working and working. But they're done touring. They said, you know, we don't want to tour anymore. That's one thing. Well, for her, you know, she got called out on her own show for not being a nice person. Gee, the person who comes out and smiles and dances, gets everybody, you know, excited about this behind the scenes, according to a number of allegations, wasn't the nicest person. I don't know how she handles herself or whether any of that was true. I do know that she's a child when it comes to this kind of stuff. There is no way I'm leaving my United States ever. I don't give a damn who the president is.
Ever. So the same allegation against her from the staff is the allegations against you then?
Exactly. Yes. Yes. That my dancing sucks. Yes. It's the exact same one. And you know what? I'm going to keep on dancing.
No, I'm making that up. Nobody in the staff says that Eric is not a nice person.
Because I pay them handsomely. Start a bunch of rumors all at once. Hey guys, what happened in that first segment?
We could tell Gary was serious. He was serious. He was saying nobody likes Eric.
Hey,
nobody likes him.
Hey, do you mind signing this? Our lawyers were listening.
Oh man, that blew up yesterday, didn't it?
Oh my God,
wasn't that great? Everybody, it was sort of like, oh, wait a minute, what's the legal note thing again? And we had talked about it yesterday. Well, what did Sonny have to do? Well, what's that all about? They've got on The View, they have lawyers that constantly monitor what they say, and during commercial breaks will write, look, you can't say this kind of stuff. You need to read this note when you come out of the commercial break. I would quit. I couldn't imagine if that was where, well, guys, what you said there, you know, you technically the company says that a man can be, the management says a man can be a woman if the man says so. You're going to have to correct that on the air.
And Eric, you need to admit you were never in Aerosmith.
Yeah.
Never.
By the way, I'm not saying our management would tell us that. I'm just,
exactly.
It's all hypothetical. I mean,
can you imagine? Seriously. And I was thinking the other day when we were talking about it, there are probably people that didn't know that. We were talking about it before it happened. We talked about it on the Sunday night, Monday morning show, or Monday night, Tuesday morning show. But it was before it happened on The View. And then it happened, and I was thinking, there have to be people that were listening to our show thinking, that doesn't actually happen. These guys, it's the hyperbole. It's the whole Eric was an Aerosmith thing. It's not true. And then all of a sudden, boom, Sonny, you have a legal note. Oh, my gosh, that was so beautiful.
We were talking about it, though. The reason we were talking about it was because it had happened in the past. That's
what I mean.
There's a history
but I think there are people that didn't believe that it had happened. Remember, we went for years and years and years, talked about people, or talked about Obama saying, under my plan of cap and trade, electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket. Forget what I say about coal, whether it's good or bad. We will force them to retrofit their operations. They will have to pass that along to their customers, and that will eventually bankrupt them. That's almost verbatim what he said, and people were saying, he never said that. He never said that. And we played it over and over again. Yeah, and that goes back to 2007, 2008 that he said that?
It goes back to February of 2008.
2008, San Francisco Chronicle.
Yeah. And the interview that he did there, which meant, as we said, he wants to raise electricity prices, and he promoted it.
Yeah.
And people voted in this country to have their electricity
Exactly.
prices raised and have their gasoline prices
Right.
raised.
But we
same
still
thing.
had people saying, well, no, he never said that. He never said that.
We
I
had
bet there were people the other night when we were talking about this on The View that had never actually experienced that never actually saw that actually take place on The View.
And I've never heard that. I've never heard anything like that happen on any talk show ever, where the lawyers are sitting there.
Legal note. Yeah, no.
That the lawyers are sitting there because they don't trust you. They don't trust.
Right.
They're going, this is our property. We don't trust you with it. We don't trust the fact that you will tell the truth.
Right.
And this could get us in trouble. You won't tell the whole story. This could get us in legal trouble. So they've got lawyers, not on retainer, because they're actually working and getting paid.
Right.
To monitor The View.
In real time.
In real time.
This wasn't days after she said something. It was minutes.
Because they believe we have children on the air.
Yep.
866-90 Red Eye.
Cold temperatures and water can lead to only one outcome, and ice has no place in a truck's air system. That's why you must keep your air system moisture-free as the temperatures begin to drop. A simple step toward keeping your air system moisture-free is manually draining the air tanks. You should drain your air tanks more frequently if your vehicle has a high air demand. Moisture that is not removed by the dryer must be manually drained from the tanks. Pay attention to how much water and contaminants drain out. Too much water indicates the air dryer isn't working properly, and too much oil may indicate that the air compressor is worn. Make sure your air system is in top condition before plunging temperatures put it to the test.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. We've made it to a Thursday. Here we are.
Woohoo.
It's so much fun to wake up. Because I sleep twice a day. When I wake up, just grab my phone. It's like, oh, wow, oh, wow, oh, wow, oh, wow. I mean, it's just, there's arrows being shot in everywhere in each direction.
Yeah.
From both parties. There's a lot of arrows flying, with Republicans, about the nomination process. You had Rand Paul come out. You see Rand Paul came out yesterday and said he would be completely against Trump using the military when it comes to deportation. And we had talked about that the other night with I think it was a CNN panel talking about that. And I thought about it yesterday and I said, oh, we haven't said this in a while. The Posse Comitatus Act.
All right.
And so we'll get to what the president probably can do and can't do when it comes to using troops. He cannot use troops to arrest people.
Right.
That can't happen.
Right.
And so we'll go through it because, it was updated recently as 2020. Before it was really just applied to the Army. In 2020, through the Defense Authorization Act, they then included the Marine Corps, the Navy. The Air Force was already in before. The Air Force they put in some time back. But you know who isn't involved in that? That Trump technically could use? The Coast Guard. Because the Coast Guard during peacetime is run by not the Pentagon.
Right.
It's run by Homeland Security.
Right.
And so they have civil, they actually have jobs that relate, not just militarily, but civilly, so they're not under it. But we'll get to that coming up here in just a little bit because I got a few emails going, all right, what's going on? What can the president do and what can't the president do there? And so we'll have that coming up.
Yep.
And Bernie Sanders gets defeated in his pro-Hamas legislation.
Oh.
God. That man is evil, I'm just telling you.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you so much for being here. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose if you can't listen live overnight on one of our great radio stations. All right, so we had talked about it briefly the other day. We didn't get into specifics of it. It was sort of, we just brushed over, and it was partly because of a conversation that was going on in a panel discussion on CNN, where, you know, the freak out that there's going to be troops on the street rounding up, people that are here illegally, and the screaming from the left. Is that in all likelihood going to happen? Rand Paul yesterday was on Newsmax and said, "I'm not in favor of sending the army in uniform into our cities to collect people." Well, are you in favor of sending the army not in uniform into the cities to collect people? No, when I said in uniform.
Is it about the uniform?
I just thought, wouldn't that technically be against the Geneva Convention? Yeah. I think it's terrible image, and that's not what we use the military for. We never have, and it's actually been illegal for over 100 years to bring the army into the cities. Paul emphasized in the interview that he believes the task of removing people from the country should fall to local police and domestic agencies, not the military. I will not support an emergency declaration to put the army into our cities. I think that's a huge mistake. Later adding, I really think us as conservatives who are supportive of Trump need to caution him about sending the army into our cities. Trump has vowed to begin deporting hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants from the country on day one of his new administration, nominating former acting ICE Director Thomas Homan as his border czar before the task. And this is because in response to a tweet this week about, that he would use the military, Trump put true. And so, but when you talk to Homan, Homan has said, well, no, we're going to use the military for support. They're actually not going to do it. Look, the Posse Comitatus Act from 1878, 1879, and then the updates to it. I think there's been 3 updates since there. You really can't use the military unless there really is an insurrection which is caused by a foreign invasion, where you actually put U.S. troops on the street. Now, it doesn't apply to the Coast Guard, because the Coast Guard is under Homeland Security, unless it's a time of war, and then under the Pentagon at that particular point. So the freak out is there, but the fact is, and there are exceptions to the Posse Comitatus Act, and the Insurrection Act is one of those. Now, you can use National Guard. There was an incident a couple of years ago where there was a mass shooting, and an Army base was right near there, and they sent some Army people to direct traffic and do that. Right. And they found that in violation of the Posse Comitatus Act. Now, nobody, Obama was in office. Obama didn't authorize it. Nobody authorized it. It just, the governor didn't. Obama didn't at the time. And I can't remember who did, but the fact is they found that they were in violation of the Posse Comitatus Act at that point. And so, you had Trump. And you do have, if you call a national emergency, which Trump did, in order to be able to use Pentagon funds, remember that, to build the wall, and he was stopped. So you can call the national emergency. It doesn't mean that the courts will back you up on it.
Right.
It depends what the national emergency is. Also, when you talk about the Posse Comitatus Act, what it says is you cannot use the U.S. military for basically domestic problems that are happening. And you could say, well, it's not domestic because it's people coming across the border, and the response probably from the courts would be, and again, we're entering uncharted territory here, maybe not totally uncharted because of the court's ruling on, where you can redirect money in a national emergency. It didn't always favor Trump, if you remember in the last, his first administration. So, what's usually brought up is, but you had Eisenhower, sent the army to Little Rock. Remember when that was going on? That's one of the exceptions. One of the exceptions is if United States citizens' rights are being violated by the state, because that's what was happening, and violence is caused because of it, and they won't call out the National Guard to do their job, then the military can come in if the state willfully, and this would be interesting because if you have a state or a city, or if you have a state break the law, because this is where some uncharted territory is, if they break the law and hide illegal immigrants or illegal criminal immigrants, whatever, does that change? And would that be an exemption to the Posse Comitatus Act that the courts would look at and say, all right, but the state is not following, they're breaking the law.
They're going out of their way, in fact.
Yeah, because I think that's one thing that this administration might do, that they might look at it and say, okay, you're going to have, we want our federal attorneys in the Department of Justice to look and see if they're breaking federal law.
Well, because when it was signed in 1878, no one ever would have thought of the idea of actual municipalities going out of their way to hide people who are here illegally.
Right,
So,
but still that would not, that would, you'd have to, I think the thing you'd have to prove, the precedent would be, what specific, is there violence being caused by it?
mm-hmm.
And is the violence caused because the state won't protect the individual rights of American citizens? Now you could make the argument in a broad brush.
Yeah, because that's right. That's the whole premise.
But actually it's not. The premise was you have specific in Arkansas and Little Rock, you had specific American citizens, you could name them, that weren't being allowed into the school because of it, and the violence was being caused by that. Now, if you had, for example, if that happened and violence just happened because you had if you had troops performing, because they can assist. We know that. They can assist. They just don't have arrest power. And they don't have power to have their guns out and arresting people. That's what they don't have. But as we've seen, it's expanded on the border. Now, whether the courts would look at it and say, okay, we've used troops at the border to assist the Border Patrol. Could you assist? This is where you might be able to use the troops. Could you use troops to assist in the paperwork in particular states, or does it have to be close to the border? Those are the things that you would have to that I believe you would have to prove. But again, this would be a new precedent because it's different. It's a different whole concept than what happened in Little Rock.
Well, look, you could still point to the victims. The victims of would be those neighborhoods, those people that are in danger because those individuals haven't been properly vetted and are in violation of the law. So there would be a violation of the rights of those individuals for those local leaders to go out of the way to harbor.
Only if the only thing you could is if violence ensued because of it. Because the rest would be to local law enforcement. The Little Rock, there was violence that was happening because the state would not enforce the fact that these people were going to allow them into the school, and they wouldn't call out the National Guard to protect it. So the federal,
I guess this is where the legal argument would come in.
Yeah, that's where the legal argument.
Exactly. Which is my point. Right. I mean, because I can see the argument going for it would be the Trump administration and looking to protect the citizens. If the leaders are going out of their way, not just having a policy, putting a policy in place, but if they're going out of their way and essentially harboring fugitives, because those individuals would be targeted by federal enforcement. So you'd be harboring somebody who is here illegally. And if they're going out of their way to do that, I can see the argument.
Well, you'd be setting it
for that.
There would be a new precedent being set.
Yes.
Because I don't see that under current law. And I don't know if the courts would go there. I don't even know if the Supreme Court would go there.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
because you're trying to use it as part of the Insurrection Act.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to extend it as part of the insurrection. If there is no violence, if there's no riots, but the point is here that to me would be the great unknown. If the federal government can prove that the local people, the mayor, whatever, the governor, is actually breaking federal law and committing a felony, then what is the power of the federal government? I don't think the power of the federal government, I don't believe the courts would look at it and say the power of the federal government is to send armed military into the cities. That's what I don't see. Now, can they use them? And this is what Holman's talking about. Holman's talking about the fact that we want our Border Patrol agents, we're going to use it as they're using it already. They may expand it, beyond the border and have the military helping with everything else, transportation, doing a whole bunch of different things to assist the Border Patrol. And, well, not the Border Patrol in this case, would be ICE. And that would be new, but would that pass the test? That might pass the test. It's the armed military going in and performing civil authorities like the responsibilities like arresting, with a gun.
Yeah, because it's still unclear if they can. It hasn't been decided in court. I'll say it that way, because a lot of people say, well, it's kind of a murky area when you get into the support, like advising them or anything like that, any other agency. It's kind of murky when you get into that. Well, it's because we haven't actually tested that in the courts yet.
But I think the strongest case would be, because I do think that the Trump administration, I do believe they're going to look at it and say they're going to send the federal attorneys, I believe, after cities and states that not just only say we're not going to cooperate, because there's a difference between just not cooperating and actively hiding illegal immigrants by law. That at that point, that there's a number of federal charges, and so if that was happening, you could say, all right, we want to send 1,000 ICE agents, and we're going to take agents that are doing paperwork and all those jobs and all those responsibilities and the transportation of all these people, because the ICE budget might not be there in order to do that.
Right.
So we're going to take money from the Department of Defense to have the military provide the infrastructure so the civilians, that would be the safest route to do it. That would be the least controversial route to do it.
Well, and then the execution of the law, being the enforcement of the law, would be done by ICE agents and not by the military.
Right.
And again, it still hasn't even been tested in court as to whether how far the supportive role can be by the military. So
no, you're right. That hasn't.
And so when all of that plays out. Because I can see liberal mayors saying, well, we saw the one liberal mayor the other day. We're not going to be cooperating. We're not going to be cooperating. To what extent? Because you've seen the cities go back and forth, and they get pushback from their own citizens of how are we going to house the people that are here, right? And if ICE knows that there are, because we come up with the number that's been floating around in recent days, 1.4 million that we know that are set for deportation now. Well, the left doesn't care about that. They want to create this situation where, again, they're not going to cooperate. They've already said this is what sanctuary policy is all about. But if they're going to go out of their way to do that effectively, they're going to have to start hiding people.
They're going to have to start hiding people. You look at what the 300,000 children missing.
Yeah.
I believe you can make a case that those officials responsible for doing that are involved in human trafficking.
Yeah, I think you can.
And I think they'll try to make that, because that's an abomination. The fact that this country isn't livid over 300,000 missing. Now, Holman talked about this. We'll get to some of the audio from him from yesterday or the day before. It's in the last 48 hours, where he was saying that's why he's so emotional about it.
Right.
Because nobody talks about the suffering that's because of what the government has done.
Right.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, Bernie Sanders' effort to block weapons sales to Israel falls short, even though 18 Democratic senators voted for it. Mm-hmm. To take, I mean, the anti-Semitism, the pro-Hamas belief of the Democratic Party is still there. Just amazing.
Yeah, the fight continues. This is exactly what they're going to keep doing. They clearly have shown, not just in the media, not just those in the liberal transgender movement, across the board, the anti-Semitism that's been on full display and officially on display in the Democratic Party will continue.
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Here we are, Thursday morning. Thank you so much for being here. I had this audio. This is from Tom Homan, the border czar, the incoming border czar on Fox News last night. And you saw that Laken Riley's murderer was found guilty and sentenced yesterday. And they were talking about, he was talking about, you know, why he gets emotional, why he screams at members of Congress. Because if you've seen him, do you know of anybody else that has shown the anger and frustration of what's gone on at the border? Anyone that has come near to the level that Homan has?
Not in public.
Yeah. And
I know a number of Border Patrol agents. So,
okay. Yeah. But I mean, in charge. I mean, somebody this, because he used to be, he used to be the,
not in public.
The enforcement czar. But here's what he had to say last night.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, Laura, a lot of people ask me why I get so emotional when I do Fox News and why I scream at members of Congress. Because I've seen so much tragedy. I've talked to hundreds of angels and moms and dads who buried their children because they're killed by illegal alien. This is the latest. You know, I've talked to little girls as young as 9 years old that were raped multiple times by members of cartel. When you look in her eyes and everything innocent and pure has been ripped from her soul, and her life will never be the same. I mean, it's just, I'm tired of it. And the government failed the Laken Riley family. Not only, if President Trump was president, he'd be sitting in Mexico in the Remain in Mexico program. And if he did get to New York and he was arrested for injury to a child in New York, ICE would be able to arrest him because the priorities under Trump, where if you're in the country illegally, you're a target. But because Secretary Mayorkas put the priorities so low, even the injury to the child didn't meet the standards, so ICE could even place a detainer on him. So this is purely, it could have been prevented. This young lady's dead, and I want every mayor, every governor of a sanctuary jurisdiction to listen to that tape, listen to this young girl fight for her life, fight for her breath, trying to survive, terrified. Think of I want you to understand what she went through. Like the 9-year-old boy, the 5-year-old boy in the back of the tractor trailer that I held, I found him dead, that baked to death. Mm-hmm. I thought about what the last hour of his life was like. You need to listen to this tape. And for those governors and mayors who are saying they're going to stop Tom Homan, they're going to stop President Trump, shame on you. Your responsibility is to protect your communities, and that's what we want to do, is protect your community.
That should be what the Republicans are constantly saying right now. Trump should be out there, you know, when he becomes president, but they should be out there promoting this on a consistent basis. You know, it's a thing where you've got to be blunt with the left. You know, you and I talking about Nancy Mace yesterday and again today being so just absolutely blunt on the radical transgender movement in this country and the insanity of it, where she looked at the reporter and said, if you believe this, you're crazy. You know, and that's what they need to do. They need to do exactly what Homan did right there. And, you know, we were talking about how far, you know, can the president go. And look, Homan made it clear. I listened to the entire interview that he did yesterday. He's already said his first priority will be those that have a criminal record. The second, those that are supposed to, that have already got their deportation orders and have not gone. And the third is the 300,000. Think about that. 300,000 missing children. And the left doesn't give a damn about that at all. They don't care about it. They just don't care. But he had said, he goes, because they were saying, well, when you're going to be deporting mothers and children, and he said, here's what we're doing. He said, they're not going to go. Anyone that the Biden administration, sent in here that got, they're waiting for their hearing. They still get to stay. Now, they're going to get more judges on it. That's the whole point. They want more money to accelerate that process, but they're only going to be deporting people that legally have gone through the system and a judge. And his whole point is, we're not doing anything illegal. We're not doing anything where you could say we're doing exactly what Congress has authorized us to do and what the American public, through their elected representatives, have authorized us to do. And he's always said that. But the fact is, he needs to make sure that there's clarity coming out from the White House as all of this goes on.
You see where the liberal left has time and time again in recent days proven that they're going to go out of their way. They don't care that dangerous people are here. They don't care that criminals or terrorists are here. They don't care. The federal government has a duty to protect the American people. And that's where we get into the discussion on posse comitatus, because I was mentioning earlier that, when I was talking about the whole basis of it, I wasn't talking about Little Rock. I was talking about the basis of the posse comitatus where it hasn't been tested, like in assisting with Homeland Security, which would be ICE. And all of that is right now open, wide open in terms of the legal argument. But the public sentiment is clear. The American people want the border closed and those who shouldn't be here gone, period.
By the way, I just use that for background. I was not comparing the two.
And
the Little Rock I was giving as background to what is
I just
happening
wanted to
in
make
history.
it clear to the audience. And so the entire thing of this entire war that the left has decided to go on, we're going to go out of our way to not cooperate. This is how it gets to this point. We're going to create sanctuary city, sanctuary county, sanctuary state policy to the point of it got so bad, the current mayor for the time of New York City actually went to a judge and said, hey, would you undo what my party did on that whole sanctuary city thing? They know it's damaging. They don't care because they're safe politically. But they don't care about the citizens of their cities. They don't. And the citizens of their cities spoke in large numbers on November 5th. They want the borders closed. This is something that you look at all the polls. Inflation under the entire umbrella of the economy and the border were neck and neck. How many times did we bring those polls? They were 1 and 2 or tied for first. The point is, it is, along with inflation and returning the buying power to the American people, sealing the border, and taking charge of our country again is a priority. It's a clear mandate for this administration. The left can ignore it all they want. Again, there's not going to be a conservative mayor of San Francisco or any of these other blue cities elected in our lifetime. That's not going to happen. Those people will still win elections, and they know it. All more the reason. You really do have to get into it. If we're going to do this and do the job, not just use it as, float it as, this is what was different about this election cycle. I didn't feel like these were just political promises, campaign promises. Because everything was on target, everything was on point with the Trump team. Everything. All of it. They ran a campaign in the last several months like you should run a campaign because they knew the reality. They were acknowledging reality, something you said about Trump back in 2016. He was acknowledging reality. That's why he won. The left went out of their way to ignore reality and create this delusional world over and over again on every level. That what you're seeing isn't true. That nothing bad can happen through sanctuary city policy. Biden is fine. There's nothing wrong with him. That boy is a girl and can use the restroom. Nothing bad will happen. All of these things where you were seeing reality and they needed you to buy into the delusional state on every level. The border is secure. The hell it is.
And that's why in some of his cabinet picks where the left is going crazy and the establishment Republicans are going crazy about it. I won't even call them, because Susan Collins isn't an establishment Republican. I don't call her. But the as we have said, you need to find people that are actually going to do things. If you go back to just a normal Republican who has served for the last 30 years and talks a good game now that things have changed, since Trump is serious about that, and you put them in, will they really do and follow what Trump wants? That's why Trump is picking loyalists. And I find it interesting because people are saying, that Trump is just picking his loyalists. Well, number one, who doesn't in a campaign? And is Trump just picking them? You might be able to make the case with RFK Jr., but anybody else that he has picked so far, is there any indication at all that they're not on the same the same plane level? Not plane level, but they're not of the exact same opinion as to what to do.
Right.
You look at Holman as one of the picks right there.
Yeah. And
so that's the thing. And so people go, well, these people are shocking. Well, yeah, they're supposed to be.
Well, that's it. The Sean Duffy, the pick for transportation secretary, has been highly critical of the current transportation secretary. He's been critical of Pete Buttigieg. It's insane. They're going to win more elections. There will be another Democrat in the White House. It's going to happen. But we have to decide as a nation whether it's going to be this radical agenda or not. And November 5th was one step in that direction.
Yeah, it's just the first step. And by the way, there's always the political landmines.
Yep.
If you go too far, because you'll hear from the surrogates of the president, we need to do everything here. Well, what did the voter really vote for? Did the voter vote for as much? The voter did not vote what I voted for.
Mm-hmm.
The average voter did not. I voted for one thing and one thing only, to stop the weaponization of government and the lawfare. That's the number one reason. And we said it. We were blunt.
Right.
That's why we're doing it.
Right.
Most people voted for inflation and the border. Not that I didn't vote for those issues, but a dominant number one was lawfare and the weaponization of government. If you go too far in which I believe you have to do in blowing up those departments, is the public going to be with you? I will be. I don't know if the public will be.
Right.
That's always the gamble that you take when you decide, okay, we've got to do inflation, the border, weaponization of government. When you're going through every single department, you know how tough that was, how tough it was just to get a little bit, a tiny bit of welfare reform, which really didn't go anywhere.
Exactly. It really only tapped the brakes. Right. It really didn't do anything long term. And that's, the Department of Government Efficiency. And then on the other hand, RFK Jr. at HHS. It's like, okay, what are we doing here?
Right.
That's because our concern with that is to, expand on that for those that don't know, a lifelong liberal, and he's talked about single payer systems and everything else. He's talked about, the whatever it is, whatever words he used, Medicare for all, all of those things would require a great expansion of government and government spending. Right. And we don't want that done administratively. If we're going to do that, let's go through our elected representatives and decide, how that's going to go down.
Well, if you're looking for, for in one of our concerns with RFK Jr., being over Medicare and Medicaid, when you look, for example, Democrats want to move away. Just in the last year, they're trying to move away from Medicare Advantage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which people really like, which is putting it in the private sector.
Right.
And the morning, no, we want this under the government.
Right.
I have no idea where RFK Jr. stands now on it with his lifelong belief in having nationalized health care.
Right.
That's not a person I want there.
Right.
I want a person who has a absolutely steadfast narrative and opinions on the conservative things that I believe in.
Right. And he's not one of them.
No, he's not. Never has been.
Nope.
And then it gets to, okay, people went crazy over the soda pop ban. Republicans did. And now you want this guy? What are we going to ban?
Right.
What's going to happen here? I want more clarity. I don't get clarity from him.
Right. Yeah.
I get that he wants people to be healthier. Who doesn't?
Right. The whole Fruit Loops argument came up. It's like, okay, no, I get it. That would be more of an FDA thing, I think. But it's, but still, again, it's this idea of going in and weeding out the rot, but also weeding out some of the waste.
When you're trying to do everything, there's a ton of landmines out there.
Yes.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
And does the American public, for example, with so much hype and hoopla, we're going to cut. Elon's not going to cut anything. Everything is a report that comes up in a year and a half as to what we're going to cut. You may have a great deal of excitement. We haven't started the cuts yet.
Exactly.
And you and I live in the real world. And the real world is not the hype surrounding what you're going to do and how everything's going to be great. And there may be no suffering because of it. You make $2 trillion in cuts, people are going to feel it.
Yep.
You can't sugarcoat that.
No.
Now, I want them to do this. I'm not negative against what they're doing at all. I'm just saying, let's temper our expectations.
Yeah. There's going to have to be a great deal of education that goes on, a massive awareness campaign, which Department of Government Efficiency, let's hope if they only get that done, that would be a good thing. Maybe they get something more done.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Independents with carrier authority should be mindful that negotiation strength varies as the week progresses. Typically, the highest rates across major segments are paid for loads negotiated on Sundays, and the highest volume of loads for all segments is seen on Mondays. Also, the weekday that tends to be the best for flatbed negotiations, yielding the best rates. Owner-operators tend to have less negotiation strength on Tuesday, which shows the lowest weekday spread between brokers' offered rates and actual paid rates. Broker offers tend to rise by Wednesday as the end of the week is in sight. This day also seems optimal for the 3 o'clock hustle, so-called for its reliance on that afternoon time of day, when brokers are getting nervous, to improve negotiation strength. Stay mindful of this system to maximize your revenue. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just quick audio, like 5 seconds long. Jennifer Rubin, just to let you know what it's going to be like when we come to January.
How about this? Republicans want to kill your kids.
All right.
Here we go.
Borrowing from the late Ed Schultz. Republicans want you to die. Yeah.
They want to make money off your dead corpse.
Yeah.
On our website, RedEyeRadioshow.com. Show info with stations, podcasts, and more. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He was Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just reading, just reading this here, and I said, Eric said this such a long time ago. This is from Outkick, Bobby Barack. The headline, Ordinary Americans versus left-wing extremism is the real culture war.
Yeah.
According to Democratic firm Blueprint, swing voters named inflation and immigration as the main two reasons for not supporting Harris in the 2024 election. That was expected. But the third reason is more telling. The firm found that swing voters felt Harris focused more on the culture war issues than helping the middle class. In fact, this was the most frequent criticism among swing-sake voters who broke for Trump by 28 points. The voters specifically referenced a dissatisfaction with Harris's views on transgenderism, which included exploiting taxpayer funds to pay for prisoners and illegal aliens to have sex change surgeries. How could she and her party have possibly thought such use of taxpayer money would be popular with the American people? Put simply, the Democratic Party was duped. Around 2016, the far left took majority control of what Douglas McKinnon calls the five major megaphones of our nation: the media, academia, entertainment, science, and medicine. With a near monopoly on the measure, the far left convinced the Democratic Party. Okay, I've lost. I hate print. I hate printers. 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 They said the perception's not always attached to reality. In this case, the voices behind the megaphone were at odds with the interests and concerns of the people.
Yeah.
Notably, just 8% of the electorate supports woke politics. And so while the Democrats have spent the past 8 years trying to pit Americans against Trump on the basis of race, gender, and sexual orientation, they have in return distanced themselves further from the average voters. And the whole thing is based on the fact that this was not, everything that we saw here was not the Democrats against Republicans. It wasn't the Democrats against Trump. It was the Democrats against, as you said, parents.
You take on, once, that started, we talked about it with Florida especially. One thing that the left didn't understand and Disney didn't understand. You're not going to war with a Republican governor in DeSantis or the Republican Party or the other side politically. You're going to war with the parents, and you won't win that. And we saw that in Virginia. We saw that in school districts all across the country now. We saw it play out. And the left thinks they're going to war with the right. You're going to war with the parents, and you won't win that. You'll never win that. The collective will of the parents is going to be done, period. And you're not going to, this whole thing, we're coming after your kids, only if the parents allow it. And I'm not saying some won't. There might be some that allow that. But it's going to be, the war is going to be with the parents, because this is where the left, and you and I came to the conclusion that the left really, if you think about it and analyzing all of it, we broke it down like this. They realized that indoctrination had to start at a much younger age. This is why they were pushing for those obscene books to be in the hands of 5-year-olds.
And then lied about what it was about.
Right. And then
Said
to
it's
the
about,
extent
yeah.
that you can't read it out loud at a public school board meeting even, they'll
Yeah.
shut you down, but it's a book that's right there in their library.
Yeah.
And they so it's proof that they wanted this indoctrination happening at the earliest of ages, because allowing that control in a home, by the parents who are the authority, wasn't working for the left. That indoctrination, they had to go further with it to make sure that they could start at the earliest of ages, and that's exactly what they were hell-bent on, still are hell-bent on doing.
And remember the argument. They were out there saying, well, the Republicans want to ban books. And Republicans would respond and say, no, we wish to have we're not saying ban books from adults. We're saying age-appropriate materials for youngsters. Mm-hmm. And their defense, they came out and they said, how dare you? Young kids should be able to read, and we should be able to read and see whatever they want.
Right.
And you and I sat there and went, Mike, I think Newsom even said that one time.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, are they out of their ever-loving minds?
Right.
That's your defense? That you can't take that there is a right, you're taking away children's rights to read whatever they want. What the hell are you talking about? There is no children's right that exists.
No.
For that. There's an adult right. There's no children right to not have age-appropriate material, because, well, then is pornography okay?
Right.
But they actually use that and kept using that as an argument, thinking that they could sell that to the American parent.
Yeah. No, they really did. Look, we saw it in the left over and over and over again. You had them saying that the parents have no place in the classrooms. One of the effects that I pointed out of at-home schools during COVID was that parents were also at home. They were working from home. And they were exposed to things that they hadn't been a part of. Most parents don't go sit in classrooms while it's all going on. And more and more and more. You had Democrats, essentially, the backlash became their political fight, really. Swalwell said it. Parents, you don't have a place in the classroom.
Yeah. Yeah, they were blunt about it.
Right. And that's, that's what they promote. What's his name that ran against Youngkin? Same thing. You don't have a place, parents. I mean, Swalwell was something like, he was going after parents. It was a little more aggressive. You're not smart enough, which, by the way, also became the tone of a number of Democrats. You're not smart. These are educated educators. You work retail. How dare you want to step into your kid's classroom?
You peon. You're not highly educated.
Exactly.
We have our pile it higher and deeper, and we're going to pile it higher and deeper and then be arrogant about it and say that you don't recognize when we're piling it higher and deeper.
Right. And but that gets us back to that, that original point. You're taking on the everyday people, but on the larger picture with much of the agenda, you're taking on parents. In fact, I would argue you're taking on parents at every level. Not everybody in the fight is a parent, but all of the parents are in the fight. On every level. A broken border. That's disconcerting to a parent. The rise in crime, that's disconcerting to a parent. All of these pose dangers to their children. The radical leftist agenda in classrooms and schools, that poses a danger to parents. All of these, that is highly disconcerting. And then inflation, when you're having to choose between paying rent or paying for back to school, that's highly disconcerting. We've talked about these things. And again, not every person in the battle is a parent, but every parent is in the battle every day, and you're trying to tell them they're not. Everything is fine. And even more so, we're coming after your kids. The hell you are. We've always got something to say about that, and we will. We'll decide, not you.
Yes, when I saw that, when I saw the headline yesterday, I went, oh, I got to make sure I bring that up to Eric. It was ordinary Americans versus a left-wing extremist. It was never the Republican Party against a left-wing extremist.
Right.
It was those parents, and that's why you saw the switch and the fact that that was the third most important issue.
Yeah.
In this in this election, looking at some of the exit polls out there, the insanity. I mean, the pure insanity of it. And I'm glad. And I will say this, and we mentioned this the other day, that the polls on the radical transgender movement have moved like 10% in Republican favor.
Yeah.
And that's because of the ads that they pounded. Now, besides Riley Gaines, you have to have others in Congress, and women come forward. Nancy Mace is one of those who has come forward and just been blunt about it. Sorry, a man's a man, a woman's a woman. Man, not allowed in the restroom. End of story.
Right.
And she's being asked, I saw some of the questions yesterday. It was like, why are you against marginalized communities? It's like, oh, my God. Another marginalized community. I'm like, just stop it. And she's just blunt. And because she's blunt and concise and there's no backing off, you can't argue with her.
Exactly.
Let me play this audio here from her yesterday. This is one of the interviews she did. Here we go.
Is this effort in response to Congresswoman McBride's coming to Congress?
Yes, and absolutely, and then some. I'm not going to stand for a man, if someone with a penis is in the women's locker room, that's not okay. And I'm a victim of abuse myself. I'm a rape survivor. I have PTSD from the abuse I've suffered at the hands of a man. And I know how vulnerable women and girls are in private spaces. So I'm absolutely 100% going to stand in the way of any man who wants to be in a women's restroom, in our locker rooms, in our changing rooms. I will be there fighting you every step of the way.
And then let me find the other one. I think this is the clip that Riley Gaines posted yesterday that was very, very clear. Here, it's like Riley Gaines, she posted this audio, but she wrote, "This is a directness and moral clarity we've been desperate to see. The issue is not as complex as some make it out to be. Men are not women, and therefore they should not occupy women's spaces. Simple." Here's then the audio from Nancy Mace from yesterday.
Are you going after a marginalized person here?
Sarah McBride doesn't get a say in this. This is a biological man trying to force himself into women's spaces, and I'm not going to tolerate it. You have the radical left that are trying to erase women and erase women's rights. I'm the first woman to graduate from the Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina. If some guy in a skirt came by and said, no, that's my achievement, I'm going to be there and standing in the way and saying, hell no. I'm not going to allow men to erase women or women's rights. And I'm going to be standing up here. I will file this again next congressional session. Sarah McBride doesn't get a say. This is about women. This is about girls. This is about our rights and being protected in our private spaces. I don't want to see a man in a women's restroom. That's not a thing. And it's not going to be a thing up here. It's not going to be a thing anywhere across the country either. Thank you.
There you go. Very clear.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning and welcome. Bernie Sanders. He can't get his effort to block weapons sales to Israel in there. I said that earlier. I go, just he's so evil, and he is. Because
yeah, he really is.
You and I think it was probably October 8th, a couple of years ago, when you just said there is no gray area here. You're either a terrorist or you're not.
It's one or the other. It's there is no common ground. There is no middle ground here. There's a very clear line. On one side, it's the radicals. On the other side, it's everybody else.
Right. And the keys to know if you're a terrorist supporter, as soon as you say two-state solution.
Right.
That's the key right there.
Right.
That's the key.
Neither of the would-be two states are asking for that.
Right.
You're giving Hamas, Hezbollah, and all of them more power and support because they see the political will growing in their favor as a result of all of this, which is how you get even though it didn't pass, you get a senator to put together that heaping, steaming pile that Bernie did.
And 18 Democratic senators supporting it.
Exactly.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah.
You know, we had played Nancy Mace, and her and her absolute bluntness and passion for saying, no, sorry, a man's a man, a woman's a woman.
Yeah.
And Riley Gaines, and we had mentioned that Riley Gaines, we played 2 audio cuts from Nancy Mace, and it's like, nope, no man is allowed in the Capitol in a woman's restroom and shouldn't be allowed anywhere. This is about women's rights. Sorry, you're a man. They're a marginalized community. We're victims. We're victims of this. They got to deal with what they got to deal with. That doesn't give them the right to go into a woman's restroom.
Right.
End of story. And extremely blunt on it. I'll say this for Mike Johnson yesterday. He had to come back and clarify it, but he was completely blunt. A man is a man, a woman is a woman. Doesn't mean, as we've said before, because you state that does not mean you don't care for people. In fact, we've made the point on the show, we care more about the health of transgenders than Democrats do. Because Democrats are saying, and we know what the debate is. We saw it a couple of years ago with Tom Cotton.
Yeah.
Interviewing the professor from Berkeley. Well, explain to me, how does this work? What do you mean? Are you a bylaw? This line of questioning is transphobic.
Right.
I'm asking questions to find out what you believe so I can understand, and you say it's transphobic. Why is it transphobic? Because you're talking about a community of people that have a much greater chance of committing suicide. So you're saying that if I bring it up, they may be offended and commit suicide? That's what she was talking about. And It's like, well, there's mental health problems there. That's transphobic to say that there's mental health problems. If you're telling me that I can't say something because a group of people will commit suicide because of something I ask a question to find out why they are what they are, and you're telling me they're going to commit suicide, and then you're promoting the chopping off of body parts and surgery.
Irreversible actions on children.
Right. And you say I'm the problem, you're crazy.
Yeah. Full on.
And you don't really care about what they're going through.
Right.
And so it's just, but to hear Nancy Mace, to see Riley Gaines, and we were listening to it, and I'm sitting over here going, I'm so happy that this is going on because you and I, and not bragging here, it's just we saw this coming and we were one of the first people to talk about the insanity of the radical transgender movement a long time ago. We predicted 10 years ago that this would destroy feminism if it continued, liberal feminism, which it has.
Right.
As we know. Oh, no, we agree. The man gets to decide what a woman is, define what a woman is. No, you don't.
Right.
And so to see, and we had said this a few times, we said, look, we're guys doing this. Eventually women are going to have to come to the forefront. But they intimidated the hell out of so many women because they threatened them. They threatened their their lifestyle, their careers, everything, as we know. And as Nancy Mace said, I'm getting death threats, and I know Riley Gaines has. And it's like, I'm getting death threats because I'm saying women should have their privacy. That's how insane the left has gotten. But to see women now coming out, to see organizations of women, the organization now that exists to protect women's rights, I when we were playing the cut from Nancy Mace, I just sort of went, it's so good to see.
Yeah.
Because we felt like this was so unfair to women. We knew women were being bullied, but we said women have to come out. Eric and I talking about it, men talking about it, for as how insanely misogynist it was, is not going to move the public on it. It's going to have to be women. And now you've got strong women all over the place who, by the way, Riley Gaines sacrificed everything, but probably in her mind gained everything too. You know,
it was the fight in from her standpoint that was necessary, that she knew. Look, if you look at Donald Trump, he said one time, the day after he made the actual decision that he was going to run for president, he knew what it was going to cost him. He said, part of me regretted it because I understood what it was going to cost me. Not just money, but, you think about a guy, in terms of building a brand based on his name, he's the guy. And that brand forever. Whatever you want to say about it, at least up until now, and maybe things will change, I hope it does, but it's been tarnished to a great extent. And it will always have a number of haters on that brand, and beforehand, it did not. These are the things that we look at, the battle, the people that are willing to go to battle. I said during the first Trump presidency, you and I have been greatly concerned about the GOP for a long time, long before he became president. And their ability to lay down is unmatched until, okay, all right, I admit, I can lay down. I can lay down on a couch pretty well. I'm pretty good at that. But politically, they have laid down so many times, and it costs the American people every single time they do it. And I was asking the question, all along the way, at some point, Trump will no longer be president. Who's the future of the party? Who are the people willing to fight? And now we see it. And it's one of the most encouraging things for me as an American that you have people like Nancy Mace. You have people that are willing to go to battle for the American people. You have the surrogates, all of the surrogates that have been so on point on the messages, on the agenda. And it's not the Trump agenda. It's the American people's agenda. This is what the American people want. And that is official based on the results from November 5th. You can't argue that anymore. The left can only ignore it or move to Europe. I wish you would have done it sooner.
I have no interest in going
moving
to Europe. I mean, it's
you
like
kidding me.
It's interesting because we talk about somebody like Riley Gaines who wasn't in the public. I didn't choose this to do. I didn't want to do talk radio because I sort of figured what was going to happen. But I've done it for so long now where I look back and say, you know, what did I sacrifice to do this? Mm-hmm. I didn't actually sacrifice anything. I've never lost I've lost somebody who knew me. You know, that incident.
Yeah,
just I can't say that they were a close friend. It was somebody I knew professionally who, you know, we were very conversational, and then it was like that ended when this person listened to the show. I can't believe you could never articulate the specifics of where I was wrong, but just hated, you know, just went from liking me to hating me, and I just you remember my reaction. I was like, whatever. Yeah. But I've never I've never lost a close friend, never lost a family member ever. You know, I mean, because of doing this, and we've been very, very blunt, and I've been blunt since I've been a talk show host, and so I don't think it's interesting because I don't think I've sacrificed anything, and I couldn't imagine not doing this now. It's not what I wanted to do, and there was the tough part of learning how to do it when you were fighting. Part of you were fighting it every single day. I really don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this. Okay, well, this is interesting here. Okay, I got through another show, but now I could never imagine doing anything but this. But I look back and go, I didn't sacrifice anything. Well, you must get hate mail. Whatever. I could care less about that.
I get hate mail. I get death threats. I've had death threats. It's, you know, it comes with the territory. These are things that have, you know, you understand. I mean, I'm not forced to do this. I don't think I'm qualified to do anything else for a living, but I you know, when I look at this, and aside from, you know, the hours, I will say this, you know, my wife and I have a great relationship, and I told her one time, and I think she agreed. In fact, maybe she kind of liked the idea that, you know, we each have each other's space, you know, but we're also there for each other, even though we work in opposite schedules. You know, having a little bit of space actually may be the key to it all, because we have the greatest relationship ever. And, you know, and I love that because it is the very basis of you know, really why I came to this job in 1996, next month, my anniversary. And it was about my family at the time. I wanted to be there for my kids who were young at the time, and be at home during the day if school called, be there in the morning to get them off to school, be there at home when they got home from school. And it really worked for our schedule, and it was a terrific opportunity professionally, and then blossomed into what it is today. And I'm with you. I can't imagine, you know, doing anything else, because I wake up and it's, you know, they always say, well, with a new day comes new hope. You know, I don't know about the whole hope thing. I'm not big on hope or change, but that should have been it in 2008. We'll give you one or the other, hope or change, not both. But the whole thing for me is that there's so much going on that this new day brings in great opportunity. I see greater opportunity with each new day. And it's what you make of that opportunity. And right now, I think where we are and what we do in analyzing, you know, what the political spectrum and landscape looks like, it really is more satisfying than ever to do as work.
Right.
You know, it's greatly satisfying.
Well, it's been a long period of time for us doing it. So now, you know, when the rhetoric, the hate, whatever, has now amplified, you know, somebody like Riley Gaines, who is, again, a lot younger than we are, and was thrust in it from private citizen to boom, you know, that's scary.
Yeah.
That's scary. And so, and a lot of people, remember, is it still where public speaking is still, people fear that more than death?
I think it's up there.
Remember, like death was number 2, public
Right.
speaking was number 1.
Yeah.
And I understand that because I remember at the college radio station, and I remember the outro was from Mott the Hoople.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was 74, so of course it was Mott the Hoople.
Yeah, why not?
And I opened the microphone and went, there was nothing.
Yeah.
And then I had to turn it off. And then I played another song and went, and was afraid to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And this was being piped down to the massive audience in the cafeteria at Erie Community College North.
While they were eating.
While they were eating and talking, and you could hardly hear it. And then a third time, finally the fourth time, I opened my mouth. So there was a great fear of any type of public speaking for me, too. I hated it. And, but again, that was, good God, it's a half a century. That's a half a century ago right about now is when I went to the radio station.
Mm-hmm.
Would have been 74.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yeah.
no, I'm sorry. End of 73. 74. Okay.
I mean, in high school, months before I started radio, I almost failed my English course because I couldn't do a oral book report. It was standing in front of the, whatever it was, 20 kids, 20 other students. There was the part about not reading the book, but don't change the topic. I kind of read the book. I read the title. I read the author's notes. But I mean, I couldn't stand up in front of people and do an oral book report. I mean, it was really, I remember it was just, put a guitar in my hand and the rest of my band, I'll go to town. If you want to hear me give an oral book, speaking on something totally different. And in fact, I was in a band at the time, a working band at the time. Totally different, though. And a few months later, I was in radio.
First year of college, I took a public speaking course. I'll never forget the teacher, Mrs. Eve, the wife of Arthur Eve, who rose to great levels in government in New York State. I was in Buffalo. Then she told me, Mr. McNamara, you will never make it in the broadcasting business. She enunciated every word.
Yeah,
you will never make it. And then she looked at this other guy and she goes, now he has the kind of smooth voice that will make it in the broadcasting business.
Uh-huh.
A year later, I'm collecting a bill collector.
Yeah.
Her account comes down. Her and her husband's, I call them.
Oh.
Mr. McNamara. I had a Mr. McNamara. Oh, this is him. Your voice is very smooth.
Is she trying to get out of paying her bill?
No, it was that they just overlooked it. It was no big deal. But yeah, so I mean, Mr. McNamara, you will never make it in the broadcasting business. Now, I never said I wanted to make it in the broadcasting business. She just wanted to clarify, you have no hope.
Exactly.
And I never did. I ended up on this.
This is where you are.
Show.
This
right.
is where you are.
So I never made it in the broadcasting.
She was right.
866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, at least the good thing is we're not going to run out of anything to talk about for the next 4 years, are we?
No, we're not.
Jeez. Oh.
No, we're not.
Did you get yours?
What?
Just a side note here.
What?
Trump unveils limited edition American Eagle acoustic and electric guitars.
No, man, I got to get one. What? How did I not know this? We're halfway through the show. You're just telling me?
Well, I didn't know. I just happened to see it. When I came in, and it was just in part of my pile. I forgot to tell you, but President-elect Trump on my pile on Wednesday announced the sale of a limited number of 45 guitars on his social media site. Coming soon, the limited edition 45 guitar. Only 1,300 of each acoustic and electric guitars made. Some personally signed. The American Eagle series of guitars features the "Make America Great Again" phrase inlaid in authentic pearl on the neck of the guitar, and the number 45 on the headstock, referring to his time as the 45th president of the United States.
Yeah.
Images of the American flag and bald eagle are also featured on the instruments.
Wow.
Well, at least we know. Well, Nugent will have one.
Yeah, he probably will. He probably will. There's a Les Paul that Trump is holding. It's got the American eagle and bald eagle and the flag and everything on it. That looks really sweet. Oh, wow.
Without
got humbuckers in it. All right.
Without the signature, $1,250 to $1,500.
That's not bad, actually.
With the guitars in the presidential series, which feature Trump's name and come in a plain yellow, red or black, will run about $2,000.
Yeah, that's still not bad.
Yeah. So
wow. All right then. Well, I don't know. What do you get on a waiting list? I don't know how it works.
Going through my mind is, what kind of musical instrument would Biden sell?
A kazoo. It has to be a kazoo. Doesn't it? It has to be a kazoo.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Did you see AOC's response to Nancy Mace? Basically saying she's going to endanger women because, who are going to be the police checking the private parts of women that are using the restrooms?
Yeah.
Have you noticed that that's been now,
Yeah.
whether it's a radical transgender movement or immigration in this country, that what they're saying is you can't enforce it, that it must continue because you can't enforce it because you'll be violating somebody's rights if you attempt to enforce either the immigration laws of this country or the radical transgender movement, which, of course, isn't going to happen. There's not going to be any inspectors in there.
No, it's not going to work that way.
Right. That's the point. I mean, that's where she exaggerates, but she's like, this is just, it's like, oh, you're just nuts. So then why enforce any law?
Right. Or any policy.
Right.
This whole transgender rights thing, I don't know. If we're going to get to enforcement, shouldn't that person prove they're a transgender?
Yeah.
I mean, how far would you want to go with it?
Yeah. Because how do we know? You might not be authentic.
This is why the left knew, in fact. They knew that they wanted to, because look at the arguments here. Look, there's not that many cases of it. It's not happening. It's not widespread. And now AOC, look, what are you going to do? How are you going to enforce this? We'll go back to the Obama administration. When it came to schools and transgender students, they didn't need to do anything but claim it. See, that's the key. On their side, all they need to do is say it. And I've been saying since, well, if anyone can belong to a protected group simply by saying so, then there are no longer any protected groups. You don't get to say what my identity is if I say, based on that administration's position, and they included the Department of the Department of Justice and the Department of Education. I don't know. They might have thrown in the DOT in there. But they included both in there because the DOJ was going to be the strong arm. Oh, the enforcement. Oh, okay.
Well, what I would ask AOC is, in all the years of liberal feminism and, all the civil rights laws for females, were all of their body parts checked to prove they were female?
Right. Right.
It's a dumb argument. I mean,
Well,
it's like they're just desperate.
And is AOC saying she can define a woman?
Yeah. That's the big one.
They keep running into their own brick walls. They write their rule book that corners them every time. Their own rule book, because the rule book is ever changing.
Speaking about weak arguments or weak presentations, I got to play this one. This happened here the other day. Another of, they're trying to ram through judicial nominees.
Yeah.
As you know, this one judge, Benjamin Cheeks, was being interviewed by John Kennedy, Senator Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
This is greatness. Stop what you're doing unless you're driving.
Yeah.
You'll want to hear this as he sort of ties them up into knots. Yeah. Here we go.
In May of 2019, you remember writing an article for a publication, the title of the article, the title of your article in which you say you didn't take a position was called The Federal Dungeon Part 2, Court Proceedings. You remember that?
I do.
Okay. And you were talking about, it was then under President Trump, not President Biden. The Department of Justice then had a zero tolerance for illegal entry into the United States, because that, of course, is the law. And this is what you said about that. Quote, technically the law was broken, but these particular defendants, poor, hungry, hardworking, and not dangerous, deserve a pass from prosecution. End quote. Saying that illegal immigration should not be criminalized is a position, is it not?
It is. What I'd like to add is that everything that I wrote while I was an advocate, not a sitting judge.
Oh, I see. That makes a difference. Did you mean it when you wrote it?
When I wrote it?
Did you mean it?
I meant it when I wrote it because...
Okay, but you don't mean it now?
I do not mean it now.
So if you take off your advocate hat today, do you have your advocate hat on today?
I am no longer an advocate. I'm a sitting magistrate judge.
Okay, so you don't tell the truth when you're an advocate, but you do when you're not? Is it okay to lie if you're an advocate?
I don't follow the question.
I think it's pretty clear, and I think you follow it.
Again, they create their own brick walls. How do they do that, man? Every single time they run into it over and over again. They want it both ways.
Yep.
And a great job by Kennedy. Great job. You paint yourself into the corner. He didn't do that. Kennedy didn't do that. You did it. And now you can't answer the question. Right. Well, I meant it then. I don't mean it anymore. Are you saying you had a change of heart? He didn't say that.
No.
He's saying no. Now he's a judge, and he can't be an advocate.
I mean, that's compartmentalizing. I mean, that's really interesting. I've never done that. Think we can get away with that on the air?
Mm.
No, I know. I know that I've talked about, Eric, that on this issue, my personal opinion is 180 degrees different from my professional opinion. Why can't you understand? There's no contradiction there.
I will say this. At home, I never say, please, honey, tell me where I'm wrong. That I don't do at home. So there's that. But it's so clear on the left.
Just ridiculous.
The fact is he's lying now.
Yes.
He wrote that piece. You don't write that piece. Are you saying that everything that you wrote in that was a lie? Well, no, it wasn't.
No.
Now he's lying because he wants the job. He wants the position. And he wants to be in that position because he's still an advocate, and they believe on the left in legislating from the bench. We know that. That's a common thread. They believe it's their duty to do so. And that's what you have there. Very clear. That's what you have. There can be no doubts. So,
Just
masterful by
it was
Kennedy. I love it.
It was entertaining, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And then this story that came out. Remember the guy that pulled the fire alarm?
Yeah.
Democrat Representative Jamal Bowman. Now, with all the issues going on. You ready?
All right.
With all the issues out there, and there's a ton of different issues, right? We've got still, how do you solve the inflation problem, the economy, open borders, crime. Outgoing Representative Jamal Bowman, a member of the far-left squad, is demanding that the next Star Wars movie features a black Jedi lead character, saying he will refuse to watch and will even denounce the movie franchise if his demand is not met.
Okay.
Can't make this stuff up.
Going to cancel his Disney Plus subscription, is he? Okay. Well, I guess that's where Disney has to rethink their entire business model.
It's just like, where did that one come from? It's like these are things.
That's the one.
These are things I'm not concerned with.
Right. That's the one.
Yeah.
The Jedi, huh? That's what you're going. Not people in neighborhoods, not real people. Make believe people in a galaxy far, far away. That's the fight, huh?
I'm sorry.
Is that where the fight is? I didn't know that.
I guess, it's...
I didn't know that. I missed that march.
I always did like the where the left went with Hollywood. Well, you're not gay. You can't play a gay character.
Yeah. Right.
Do you understand what the job is?
Oh, related to holidays, the person who played the ghost of Christmas Past wasn't actually a ghost.
You're an actor.
Right.
You're acting. It's not real.
Right. I mean, in The Sixth Sense, we're not asking them to actually shoot Bruce Willis. One of the new kids on the block shot Bruce Willis. Donnie Wahlberg.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, remember in the movie? He played in the movie. He was new kid on the
It's
block.
so long ago, I didn't remember he was even in it.
He was in the boy band. He was in the movie and the boy band.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Good actor. Very good actor.
Yeah.
But that's not, those aren't, it's called acting. We know how it works. It's, the left protests the daylights out of everything. We're really, there is nothing left for Hollywood to offer. I mentioned Vince Vaughn on Hot Ones, where they eat the hot wings and the sauce, basically, and they pour it on wings, and it gets hotter as the conversation goes on. And he was talking about the silly, Sean, the interviewer, bringing up the silly comedies, those basically those adult comedies that Vince Vaughn was a big part of back in the day. They're not making them anymore. And Vince Vaughn was hopeful that Hollywood would get back around to it, but basically making the point that the people at the studios are just doing, what their job is, because that is their job. They have to do what essentially the studio wants them to make. So it's going to keep until somebody makes that change at the highest level in studios, is what he was implying. And he's hopeful that is starting to change. But beyond that, it is the messaging and everything else. Something like this, where, well, we want to see this and we want to see that. I mean, we had Steve Byrne on the show. In fact, who's worked with Vince Vaughn. Great comedian, great producer, a great writer. Sullivan and Son on TBS was on for a few years, and when he was on the show, he talked about that. You know, it's like they come back to you and say, this group isn't represented. He's like, I've got every group represented.
Yeah.
You know?
And he was a regular on Jay Leno, too, when Jay Leno did the Tonight Show.
Exactly. Yeah. And, you know, but that's, Hollywood has just taken all the fun out of it and taken all the creativity out of it because it has to get down to this nothingness of what one person or, you know, somebody ordered them to do. Well, we've got to do it because otherwise what? Your audience is going away. You're no longer relevant based on the stuff you're creating. And it's just not creative at all. It really isn't. Hasn't been for a while.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Hey, a minimum wage referendum in California failed.
Oh, wow.
It's like 51-49. It failed. First time it's ever happened in California. They said, nope, no more increase in the minimum wage.
Well, again, you get to a point where the people are paying the price because you see that, and you see that businesses can't stick around. It becomes more expensive to do business in California, which means jobs go away. We've been saying for a while, at some point, when it comes to states like California, and really, is there any other state like California, quite like California? But those blue states that make it so expensive, at some point you can't afford to stay. But I think of all the families that they don't want to leave their home. They don't want to leave their families behind in California to have to move, but they're being priced out every single day on measures like this.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. You know, when we were talking about Eric, about Representative Jamal Bone, who'll be out. He's the guy that rang the fire alarm. Remember that one? Mm-hmm. And we were talking about the fact that he came out and he's demanding that the next Star Wars movie features a black Jedi, or he will not watch, and will even denounce the movie franchise if his demand isn't met. And you and I are like, what? And you were just talking about movies in general. It's funny because I think of 20 years ago. 30 years ago, I probably didn't go to the theater as much, but I wanted to know what to rent. I was always renting movies every weekend. Mm-hmm. And there was always another movie that would interest me. And I think about it now, and I'm like, there's nothing. And I know I see the movies that are coming out, and I read the reviews, but it's not even the reviews of a movie that drives me. It's, it can be the trailer. It can be, all right, what's the plot of the movie? For example, the one movie I did want to see, because that'd be interesting, and they say, okay, maybe because of what's going on in the country, that it has it's related to it, but it was the movie Civil War. Did you see it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, did you like it?
Yeah. Yeah.
See, I can't get through the first 10 minutes because it didn't grab me. I didn't know what was going on. The reporters are covering it, and it's about the report.
No. I'm thinking of a different movie. I'm thinking of one that was 20 years ago.
Oh, no,
actually.
The
new Civil War. No, I haven't seen
the new
it.
Civil War. We had talked about it on the air.
Yeah.
And said, well, if you have alliances between California and Texas,
right,
then you're into fantasy world at that particular point. And they said, no, it's just the concept of if there was a civil war. But they started it out. It wasn't like, and the only thing I could think of was like either Red Dawn 1 or Red Dawn 2.
Right.
I mean, you get to understand what's going on very quickly in the movie, because the war starts and it's the war scenes. Well, it's the back and forth between reporters covering it and who's going to go where to cover it. And you don't know why the Civil War is going on. And 10 minutes into it, I'm like, I'm done. And it's just because I want to get to what it reminded me of. And it might be a good movie, and maybe I won't be so antsy, and the next time I'll sit down and watch it. Mm-hmm. But it reminds me of the YouTube videos, where the YouTube video would say something like, Gary McNamara is getting married. That kind of shocking news or something. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, my God, really?
Clickbaiting, yeah.
You're oh, my Gary. And it's like, and then they start out Gary McNamara was born in Kenmore, New York. Mm-hmm.
A ton of articles do this.
Yeah, and they the articles do it too. You see them in the articles.
They start with going through this history of things that you don't need to go through.
Right. I'm clicking it because I know who the guy is. I know what he's doing. Well, the guy would be me in this case. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I know who he is, which is why I'm interested in what he's doing. I don't need the entire background that's 15 minutes. I'm gone. And the same with the articles. As soon as I realize that's what they're doing, I'm gone. Now, they may be happy because they got the click, but I'm ticked off, and those sites that do it, I don't go to them as much anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I will. In fact, I will usually on my thread, on my news feed, I'll mute those or, block them.
But the only movie I do want to see, and I'll try to get through it, because I just laughed when I saw the title. And I think Freevee is the one, the streaming service that's running it, is, always looking for Christmas movies. In fact, you know what I might do this year? I might rewatch. I only watched it once. I may rewatch Fat Man with Mel Gibson.
Oh, yeah.
I never rewatched it again. I'm like, I got to watch that again.
Yeah, why not?
No, this one, A Christmas Karen.
There you go.
On Freevee.
Yeah.
And it went, they said straight to video.
Right.
Never went in the movie theaters.
Yeah.
And I'm like, did they view that as too politically incorrect using the word Karen, a Christmas Karen? Because I wondered, okay, does a Karen relate to a Karen?
Right.
And it does. Right. Karen is an entitled middle-aged woman whose demanding nature has alienated her neighbors and family after a series of instances displaying her privilege and prejudice. She receives an intervention by some unconventional spirits.
Yeah.
We don't know if they are the malevolent UFO spirits that Tucker Carlson is talking about.
Right. And we don't know if those spirits were played by actual spirits.
Yes, exactly. or whether they're involved in spirit appropriation.
Yeah.
So that one has my interest. And I said, okay, so it never got to the movie theaters. Went straight to video. I thought it might have been a Hallmark movie. It wasn't. I'm like, Hallmark's not going to run that. They're not going to do a Christmas Karen, are they?
No.
Now, see, I don't know. And the thing is, I don't know what direction it goes because the title of it is A Christmas Karen, which, again, saying the word Karen drove the left nuts. Mm-hmm. But then in the explanation of the movie, after a series of instances displaying her privilege, and I can see here that Karen is a white woman, but it says A Christmas Karen, God help us, everyone.
Yeah. And it did go viral. The Karen videos went viral over the last 5 years or so. COVID or a Karen in a park or whatever. They went.
Karen in a park.
Yeah.
Keep your
dog on a leash. Those things went viral. It's I have to see the preview at least. I need to see the trailer for this movie.
Yeah,
because it sounds like, if you're basing it on A Christmas Carol, that at the end she comes around, she learns something from these spirits. That's also what they call hard liquor spirits. People rarely learn anything from that. But if she's learning something, and then there's this, I don't know, redeeming quality about Karen. The question is, does she change her name to Carol? Yeah.
Yes, that'd be nice.
Yeah. I have to see the trailer, though. I've at least got to tune into the trailer. That would be cool. And that's kind of the commitment. On Civil War, on the new one, I think the movie I'm thinking of 20 years ago was called Civil War. It may be called something else. But on the new one, you and I talked about it.
Yeah, we did.
I remember watching the trailer when it hit my rental queue, and I was like, I don't know that I'm on board yet or not. Maybe one day. I don't know. I don't have I really don't have the time to invest in something that's going to, okay, this is going nowhere. I've actually tuned out of more movies after renting them lately than I ever have in recent years, I'll say. The new Elvis movie. I didn't like that at all. It was a weird musical. I didn't like that. I didn't like a lot of the things in it. The way it was produced was weird. A lot of people liked it.
10 minutes, and I was gone.
My wife and I lasted about 20, and I've never watched the rest of it. That was enough for me. There were a number of movies, so-called big movies, so-called popular movies that were out. A good handful of them, I'll say. Probably a half dozen.
I turned out of the Queen movie early.
Yeah.
I turned out of the Elton John movie early.
The Queen movie, the Elton John I never watched, but the Queen movie I did watch. I did watch that one. To me, a documentary is so much better in that regard.
Oh, I've watched.
If you're gonna serve, Freddie's memory or any of that, or the history of the band or anything else, I want to see the documentary, and then you see that the timeline was manipulated and how things went down in the movie and everything else. There's no need to do that when we all know, when the truth is there, and you all know how it kind of went and when things played out, and they changed the timeline. It's like, why would you do that? You're making up a story that doesn't need to be made up. It has enough drama carried with it, plenty of drama when you do it accurately.
One of the because I mentioned the made for whatever movie on Queen, when they did the biography on Freddie Mercury, for example, and they did the whole part of it where, remember, he was working with that opera star. That was fascinating.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
him and her putting together an album of opera.
Right.
And I thought to myself, well, that would be the natural progression of somebody like him with his voice.
Oh, man.
Right? And he did it.
Booming.
And, and that I found much more interesting.
Right.
Because I sort of know the story already, the
Right.
general story. And so a documentary that delves into somebody's life like that, and you say, whoa, wow. Because I didn't know
things
that.
you didn't know.
Things I didn't know.
You look to learn something, and then instead Hollywood thinks they need to change things about the people's lives and the timeline, and I've never understood that. If it's worth making, if the story is worth telling, then tell the story. You don't need to add something to it to make it yours, because it's not yours. It never will be your story. It belongs to Freddie and the rest of the band in that case, and the fans that lived through it. It don't manipulate something that we all know you're manipulating. It doesn't make any sense. It serves zero purpose. In fact, in my opinion, it only does damage, because then you have people that didn't weren't alive, didn't live through those years and think the wrong thing. They think, oh, well, this happened then or that happened. It's like, nope, that never happened, and this didn't happen then. You know, and then you have to be careful of which documentaries, of course. But when you're talking about like a biopic or a documentary that's based on someone's life and they show a number of things, I'm always looking to learn something that I didn't know about the person or the entity or whatever it is. You know, I'm looking to gain something from that. It's not just entertainment. But if you're going to do it as entertainment and portray it, then tell the actual story.
Well, if it's going to be based on a true story from Ron Howard, you know that you have to. And by the way, he's a great filmmaker, but he tends to put in things that I believe you don't have to in stories that are true.
Well, it's again, and that's why everybody now laughs at based on a true story. Those words are, if you're talking about something that's historic, if you're talking about whether it's a person or a set of events or an entity or whatever it is, then everybody, if they don't already know the truth, they'll find it out probably by the end of the movie because they're going to be curious, did that actually happen? Did that actually happen?
You know, Cinderella Man, and we've talked about before, the hit job that Ron Howard did on Max Baer Sr.
Right. Yeah.
You know, if you saw the movie and Max Baer Sr., this complete idiot moron, he was a really nice guy.
Right.
He was, the family was furious.
Intimidating in the ring.
Yeah.
But that's where he's supposed to be intimidating.
Right. But very, very, they made him out to be a promiscuous and everything.
Yeah.
They're like, that wasn't him.
Right.
And it's like, why? There was no reason to do it.
None.
And then what was the other one? In Apollo 13. And this bothered me just because I know the mentality of people that worked in the rocket industry. My father, where they had, the fight and the arguments inside the capsule, never happened.
Right.
They never argued like that.
Right.
They never argued. They were complete.
There's a new documentary on that, and it shows you. You can hear the tone of the voices. By the way, a very serious tone, but so consistent and level-headed.
Right.
In the communications of what you see. They're actually using real footage from then. I didn't know there was this much footage from all of that available. Yeah. But the documentary told that story much more to the point.
And when what's it? Jim Lovell said, "Well, yeah, they did that for the movie." But to me, I was a little ticked off about it because, we need to make it real. Well, no, real is what real was, and I'd rather know that these astronauts, when their lives could be on the line, were the most incredible professional engineering minds possible. That's what I wanted to hear.
Yes.
I didn't want to see the bickering back and forth, going, we're making them like normal people. They're not normal people. They're astronauts.
Exactly. I mean, it's incredible, the history. The truth will tell the story. The drama is unbelievable. When you look at that and say, is that true? And the answer is yes. Yeah. And you're going, my gosh. It's like, well, no, they just did it. They just did it because they want to make it their own. It's not your story.
You're talking about the recent documentary, right? I haven't seen it, the recent one. Yeah, I want to see that one.
I'll get the name of it here in a minute. But I watched it. An unbelievable. I didn't know there was that much real footage available from then, from that whole series of events. It's pretty incredible. They did a really good job.
86690 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. When driving, you need to manage the space around your vehicle so that there's enough space to allow you to adjust when traffic conditions change. The space ahead of your vehicle is the most important and one of the easiest to monitor and adjust as needed. One rule of thumb is to allow at least 1 second for each 10 feet of vehicle length at speeds below 40 miles per hour. At greater speeds, add an additional second. It's impossible to keep other drivers from tailgating you, but there are some things you can do to make it safer, such as increasing your following distance, avoiding quick lane changes, and slowing down. There are also several things you should do to ensure that there is plenty of space between the side of your vehicle and other vehicles. Don't hug the center line, avoid hugging the right side of the road, and avoid traveling alongside other vehicles in strong winds, especially crosswinds. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, for the next day and a half, it may just be all audio cuts because there's so many great audio cuts.
Right.
I want to play this one. This, again, comes from CNN, and it's Brian Stelter.
Okay.
And it's talking about, why Morning Joe and Mika went to bow down before Trump. And remember I said yesterday, was it to you? Did I say it to you or did I say it to somebody else? I thought I said it on the air where I went, okay, who's going to come out and say they did it because they really believe he's Hitler and they're trying to get on his good side?
I think you said that you said it to me, but I think you said it on the air.
That's Stelter's argument. Do I have time? No, I'll play it. I want to make sure I play the whole thing.
All right.
So,
by the way, that Apollo thing is on Netflix. Apollo 13 Survival.
Oh, okay.
And it's great.
Well, then I can get Netflix and watch that on December 24th, and then watch all the NFL games on the next day
for 1 month.
Christmas
There
Day.
you go. Yeah, no, definitely worth watching. It's well, I saw the on the Stelter point. I saw the somebody posted on X. I forget who it was. That Joe and Mika have decided to kneel before Zod.
I think that was a Babylon
Superman.
Bee.
Yeah,
that was a Babylon Bee headline.
Just funny.
Joe and Mika bow down before the god Zod, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, my
God. I just love that.
Is there no self-awareness? Seriously, there's no self-awareness because could you imagine you and I criticizing somebody severely, and then a whacked out Democrat, because that's how they portrayed Trump as Hitler,
right?
And if we actually thought somebody was like Hitler, and then we went and bowed down before them,
right,
and went, to their bunker,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, it was like, you're surprised,
right? They were lying.
The show that never stops. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. It's really interesting, because of the Comcast spinoff of MSNBC and CNBC. Morning Joe and Mika, went and bowed down before Zod. That was the greatest headline when I saw that the other day. And we had just said, it's funny because maybe they are listening, because I said, I think the next thing they're going to come out and say is that the reason that they went to Mar-a-Lago so they could, have open the lines of communication, which drove the left bonkers.
Yeah.
Absolutely, bonkers. I said, they may come out and say, in order to justify it, well, Trump really is Hitler, and we're so scared we're trying to get on his good side so he doesn't come after us. That's what Brian Stelter said on CNN.
Yeah.
Scott Jennings was there, disagreed with him, but here's how this all started. Here we go.
Essentially, that they feared retribution, and that's partly why they sought out this meeting.
What kind of retribution are we talking about here?
I think there's a wide spectrum, and to be fair to Brzezinski and Scarborough, they're not the only MSNBC hosts or the only, the word journalist is complicated, right, because they're more like personalities, but there are a number of journalists at places like the AP and other big news outlets that are concerned about retaliation in the coming months. Anything from IRS audits to lawsuits and things like that. There are media outlets bulking up on lawyers, thinking about having more libel insurance, those sorts of things. Now, I don't know exactly what the specific concern Joe and Mika had was or wasn't, but they're not the only MSNBC personalities worried about retaliation. However, they are the only ones to go down to Mar-a-Lago and have a meeting.
Yeah, Scott, you were shaking your head.
I mean, isn't it possible, too, that they're just two people who are so full of themselves, so full of self-aggrandizement, that they would feel like that they would be personally
Scott,
singled out?
don't tell anyone, but some of their colleagues feel that way.
Well, first of all, I can see why. Second of all, if that's what happened, and if that's what they truly believed, why didn't they go on TV and say that? We went down there to meet with the president to tell him that, hey, anyone who's been critical of you, you should treat us like journalists and not like the enemy. They didn't go on TV and say that. They went on TV and portrayed it much differently. So what I hear you saying in your reporting is they had a motive that they weren't willing to disclose to their audience, which I think should get them more scorn today than they were already getting to begin with.
When Stelter's talking, CNN, they split the screen with Jennings, and he's got the biggest smile on his face, and he's rolling his eyes. I mean, it's obvious.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, there was so much said in that. When I was looking at that, I went, that's very much like a debate where, a presidential debate where or any debate, political debate, where the camera's on the other person. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, Jennings knows how to give the perfect look. He really does.
Yeah.
He knows how to give that perfect look, which communicates to you, this guy is full of it.
Yeah.
But in a way that, it makes you smile, because then you anticipate, it's going back to him, and it's like this, which is actually a good way for CNN. I mean, I know their audience is hardly anyone right now, because they're actually hurting worse than MSNBC. They've been hurting for a while, but Jennings makes it watchable. Jennings, to me, is the star of CNN.
Well, think about this: as one person balances out everybody else on CNN.
Yeah.
And does so without flinching, without hesitation, because the arguments are so weak. Stelter needs this to be the whole lie about Hitler, fascism. He's gonna come after journalists and everything else. He needs this to be alive. So you got to try and create some kind of reason for Joe and Mika to kneel before Zod.
Well, you need to make them the victims.
Yeah, I guess.
That Morning Joe
right.
and Mika are the victims.
They fear that he will come after them, and all of this. It's such nonsense. They really need it to be something serious. They even with Joe and Mika's approach, think about it. It was a weird kind of virtue signaling and gaslighting approach to the whole thing, because they wanted you to believe they were brave for going into the bunker with Hitler. They need you to feel like they've made a sacrifice by sitting down with Hitler. We're going to have a different approach. We're going to do something brave and noble. That's what they want you to believe. The fact of the matter is, there is no threat. It doesn't exist. They had to build it out, but they needed to carry on. Stelter needs to carry it for it to carry on. Lord knows Keith Olbermann needs it to carry on. His mom might kick him out any time now if he doesn't get something done. It's all of these things. Mom, the resistance. He's he doesn't. He doesn't.
I'm sorry,
my soup's cold, Mom. It's not a very difficult situation to break down at all.
You just made me think of something. You and I have been doing this for decades.
Mm-hmm.
We've been doing it a lot longer than any of those people that are in the CNN panel right there.
Yeah.
We've done it much longer than any of them.
Mm-hmm.
And, Scott Jennings comes off as pretty normal. Abby Phillips comes off as pretty normal, even if she has bizarre at times bizarre opinions. In fact, we may get to the one here in a little bit where, she's trying to make the comparison of the dancing, that, some people on the left going nuts because of the dancing, but on the right, they went nuts because of Colin Kaepernick. And that wasn't about politics. That was about social justice. Shut up.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be rude, but it's like, we all know social justice is politics.
Exactly.
So stop BSing me. But she still comes across. But you think of Stelter when he first came back and talked about the fact that, as a reporter, as somebody who covers the media, that a politician should shut up.
Right.
Those are things. And I'm thinking to myself, we've done this for the longest time, and there is just a level of narcissism combined with virtue signaling and victimization from even a lot of these anchors.
Yeah. Well, and our approach, like with Kamala Harris and other Democrats, we've said over the years, you should stop talking, not because we believe they shouldn't have anything to say. It's because we were putting our analyst hats on and giving them advice for their own benefit. You should stop talking because every time you do, it hurts you.
Yeah, we talk as political. If those are the times, and everybody in our audience understands it because we've done it enough, saying, okay, we're playing political consultant now to this particular candidate. Shut up.
Yeah.
In fact,
stop talking.
Right now, I would have told all the Democrats for 2 weeks after the election, if I was a political consultant, say nothing, shut up.
Listening to John Kerry and Hillary Clinton talk about doing away with free speech. John Kerry saying it's blocking, the First Amendment blocks our agenda. Dude, you need to stop talking. Now, we're also the ones that say for our side and our purposes, own it. But I mean, politically, of course, John Kerry's not running for office. It's politically damaging for the party. I think he was testifying on Capitol Hill one time, and we said people have to be screaming from the Democratic Party, and I forget what he was saying that day specifically, but they have to be screaming, somebody shut his mic off. He needs to quit talking. And, but all of these analysts there in the media, in the left media, is breaking it. These are liberal activists that need the whole Hitler thing to stay alive because they got 4 years. Not Ellen DeGeneres, because she's going to live in Europe, so she's going to deal with them. Or wherever she's moving. Look, you can leave the U.S., go to California. As
I said, living in Portland when I first got there was the furthest I've ever lived out of the United States while still living in the United States.
Well, hey, even Mark Cuban recently called it, remember a month or so ago, the People's Republic. He acknowledged it's the People's Republic of California.
Oh, yeah.
But the media, the activists in the media, they need that fascism thing because they need to work against the consensus of the American people. And it is a consensus because Trump won in a very decisive way. And it is the will of the American people for his agenda to be done. And I've been saying it's not just his agenda. It is the agenda of the American people. It will serve the American people well for all of these items to play out, for them to have better spending power, a secure border, and for crime to be fought and greatly reduced in major cities. All of these things, of course, work to improve the lives and safety of the American people. And then national security, a commander-in-chief who can make a decision. These are things that are necessary. And they can't stand it. They need to, again, work against that consensus, against the American people. They have no sense of self-awareness whatsoever. They really don't see it. And they don't want to. Stelter or any of them. Mika and Joe aren't going to change anything. You know, I mean, they may be trying to get access to people in the administration to have them on.
Yeah, I've always thought it was part access, but also part fear, believing that, you know, whether they knew the rumors of Comcast going to spin them off or whatever, but always the possibility of a new owner and knowing what they're doing, we can use the word, knowing what they're doing is not sustainable.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm being serious about that their opinions, you know, you listen to a Joy Reid, she's bat soup crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not at all. You know, Trump is taking criticism for being a radical, but on the issues where he actually stands, we've always said Trump is a moderate.
Right.
In fact, we've always stated one of our fears of him as a lame duck president is he may listen to a particular member of his family and move too far left, especially on issues. And that's our concern with Robert Kennedy Jr.
Yeah.
Is the fact that Trump has in the past talked about the fact maybe we should consider, you know, Medicare for all or more government health care. Well, putting RFK Jr. in there doesn't soothe us at all.
Right.
We're strictly issues. We don't care about the personalities.
Right.
We just don't care.
Right.
We don't. They come and go. It's the issues where we stand. But, you know, you look at, but other, you know, he's still, though, even when you talk about Medicare for all, again, he hasn't advocated it. He just said maybe we should think about it. But all of where he stands on the issues have always been in the mainstream of Republican or Democrat policies.
Yeah.
But these, you know, you look at what's going on at MSNBC, and they're just, we've played enough audio, they're nuts.
Yeah.
And I do think that Scarborough is smart enough, because one of the questions, do you really believe that Scarborough believes the stuff he's been saying, or is it performative? Because this is where you are right now, and it's paying you a great deal of money.
Right.
And I think that's a possibility, because you just don't do what they did. You have no self-awareness. The person you've called the fascist Hitler, there's no way the whole country be destroyed. He gets elected. Oh, we went and had a chat with him about the issues and tried to see where we can come to some type of agreement. His audience went nuts. You've been calling him Hitler. You don't negotiate with Hitler. Where's the compromise with Hitler?
Right. No self-awareness.
And then when we're getting attacked and everything else, and we're just trying to, now you're victims.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Just stop it. God, stop being children. 866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up finally at the top of the hour. Remember that Democrat chair of the Bucks County Elections Board? And when she came out and said that precedent by the court doesn't matter anymore. Remember that?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like, well, she sort of apologized, but wait till you hear the excuse that she gives for why she said it.
Okay.
And we have the audio, and you're going to love the audience reception to it. All coming up.
All right.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.